Just want to say a few remarks. I'll MC today, share a few stories, and introduce everybody. I was a student teacher here when Rich was working, and Rich was an incredible educator in person. I didn't know him as well as many others, but what I do know about him is from his students, who were my students, whether they have become friends of mine because they're educators in Quincy, or had children of people who knew him really well. And everybody, I think, always looks to, or hopes, if you're an educator, that you affected one life or two lives. And over the course of your career, that adds up. And I can tell you that there are so many hundreds and thousands of kids that when they think of a special educator in their lives, they would point to Rich. And he built something here that continues to grow, and you'll see the fruits of it today. But today is about Rich. Today is about Rich's family. And we are so proud to be dedicating an arts wing in his honor this morning.
Certainly to the Keneally family, to the educators here at North and throughout the system, it's a pleasure to bring the greetings of the city here this morning. You know, if you walk the school, you walk the campus, there's some things that stand out. I mean, we're in the Peter Quisnam Auditorium. He was the principal when I was here, graduated in '81. It brings back so many memories when you come back into the school. I see Peggy Keneally out here. I think of her mother, my fourth grade teacher at Sacred Heart. Rich's sister, Ann Keneally, she was a star in all the shows, and I either helped with the stage hand or got a little part. It was so much fun to do that. You go over to Creedon Field and see the great names that we've honored at that field, including Eileen Feeney, the Cap Bryant Gym, the Nobby Nolan floor, obviously the wonderful Atrium of Honor, remembering our veterans from this school. But Rich is really the first name that we're honoring from the arts community, which is just tremendous. Sometimes the arts community is overlooked. Sometimes we get heavily attached to the sports teams, which is great. But when you think about Rich's work, and I know Mr. Gilbert mentioned, you know, how many kids were connected. I go a little further. I would suggest it's hard to measure the effect one has on kids. It's not just about preparing the kids for the world, but it's really helping them find their passion. And I think Rich did that so well to so many of our kids. So we certainly are proud to be here and honor his memory. His name will be forever remembered here at his North Quincy High School. And may God bless his soul, and may God bless America. Thank you.
My three sons take piano lessons from one of Rich's former students. So it goes in so many directions. It's amazing. It truly, sorry, my voice got a little shaky there for a second. I'm a very emotional person. Please forgive me in advance. At this time, I would like to invite the Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Kevin Mulvey.
Good morning, everyone, and it's an honor to be here with you today to celebrate the life and legacy of Richard Keneally as a longtime and beloved band director for the Quincy Public Schools. I would like to welcome, in particular, the Keneally family to today's dedication, to thank them for all the musical contributions they have made over the years to the city of Quincy and beyond. So thank you very much. I'd also like to thank, as Dan has done, the many people who helped make today possible, including, of course, Mayor Koch, the Quincy School Committee who are here with us today, Assistant Superintendent Aaron Perkins, Executive Director Keith Sagala, Director Taglieri, all of the members of the SLT who are here with us today to show tribute to Mr. Keneally, of course, Principal Gilbert and the members of the teaching staff, and of course, all of our students, past and present. So thank you all very much. Could we have another round of applause for all those individuals? Thank you. When I hear the name Richard Keneally, many attributes come to mind, including kindness, humility, warmth, humor, and of course a genuine love of music, and in particular a love of teaching music to students. Richard knew the many positive aspects that music contributes to a person's life. He knew that music enhances intelligence, improves mental focus, boosts the immune system, strengthens self-esteem, and increases confidence. Music reduces stress, lowers blood pressure, improves memory, and aids towards inducing a better and deeper sleep. Music literally lifts your spirits through worship and improves the overall quality of life. Certainly, improving the lives of others, particularly students, was a primary goal of Richard, and he did this through the gift of music. As the band director for the Quincy Public Schools, Richard, or Mr. K as the students would refer to him, inspired countless individuals to access the benefits of music in varying degrees. To the daily opening of students' minds to the enormous benefits and enjoyment of music, to inspiring and encouraging others to pursue a career in music, Richard improved the lives of countless individuals, one student and one lesson at a time. Today, through the dedication of this space to Richard, we are affirming his mission and paying it forward to countless generations to come who will benefit from the example and legacy that Richard left for us all. Thank you to Richard, and again, thank you to the Keneally family. Thank you all.
Thank you, Principal Gilbert, and good morning. As someone who worked alongside Mr. Keneally for many years, I can attest to Mr. K's tremendous influence on the band program in the Quincy Public Schools. Always kind and a patient teacher, Rich brought us all joy and many laughs throughout the decades with his amazing sense of humor, inspiring the best in his students and all the people who were fortunate to know him. Rich was an outstanding musician. Saxophone was his primary instrument, yet he was equally at home improvising jazzy harmonies at the piano or conducting an ensemble. He simply loved making music in any fashion. He especially enjoyed directing the school musical for decades, along with his close colleague and friend, Peggy Spencer. Rich was a music educator beloved by students and colleagues alike, and whose legacy will forever live on in our memories and hearts. The portrait of Rich that is displayed on your programs and near the band room was drawn by a student, Bryn Toller. It is a testament to the lasting impact he had on his many students. I believe Rich would be proud of the music program today. He first graced the halls of North Quincy High School as a student here himself, graduating in 1971, and retired from these very same halls many decades later as one of its band directors in 2019. Given his exceptional years of service to North Quincy High School and the Quincy community, it is fitting that the Performing Arts Wing be dedicated to him. His memory will forever live on in his many students and the countless lives he touched in a most beautiful way. The North Quincy High School Wind Ensemble would now like to perform one of Rich's favorite selections, Birdland. Thank you, Rich. welcome Andrew Moriello, a 1998 graduate of North Quincy High School and one of Rich's former students.
Something that just occurred to me is that such a big piece of what made Rich who he was his wife Cece, who would have just been here railing about why this would have been better at Quincy High School. And she wouldn't have let up on that point either. I'll try to make this short. I'm not typically a notes person, but I have some notes because I didn't trust myself enough to explain what I needed to explain without them. So when we talk about educators in the past sense, educators you benefited from, it's always talking about inspiration or influence. And I think those two things are super important. He influenced me by showing me all the real-time things in these 7 years I was his student and 22 years I was his friend, about kind of happy life, how to just be yourself and be light. And raise with Cece 2 amazing daughters. That's influence. But impact is something different, and I want to just talk about his impact on me. And I think that's different because there's inspiration and influence, but impact is kind of, at best, a combination of both. It's kind of like the stamp that is on you, that you draw from but can't always draw a straight line to. It's how you act. It's the decisions you make are influenced by this, and you can't really say, yeah, it's because of that. It's a part of you. So I thought it was a good opportunity to try to draw some of these straight lines about where that impact still to this day is just a stamp on me. He was generous, and like millions of educators, he was selfless and gave, expecting nothing in return. And when I was a student, he found himself, his lifeline was his saxophone. He played his saxophone to provide for his family, and it got stolen. And a bunch of students, myself included, went around Quincy to local businesses and saying, hey, we have a band banquet and we're going to have a program and we want you to buy ad space in it. And these like diner owners were like, what? Like, well, why? No. And they're like, yes, because this is important and you'll have a big ad and so many people will see it. And they were like, here's $50, just get out. And so at this band banquet, we kind of presented him with like, here's what we did, go buy a new saxophone. That was not something like that. That was not something we were looking for credit for. That was not something we knew how to do. But we did it because it was just this force. That's what he imprinted on us. And later, I helped organize a benefit for medical expenses. And again, it wasn't like it was just something I needed to do because he was generous with me. He was light. There were so many dumb, stupid, silly faces and noises coming out of him at all times. But why that's important is like, he and Cece raised these 2 amazing daughters. I have 3 daughters who I hope will be half as amazing. Part of that is just being light. It's not being so heavy and like the weight of the world is on you all the time. It builds trust. It helps them. He was curious. He was open to new experiences in music. I had long conversations with him about World War II at his dining room table at like 2 a.m. He was intellectually curious. That was something I found hard to pin down because being curious is a big piece of me that I think it was stamped on me from looking at teachers, like you see a teacher in a supermarket and you say, that's weird. But understanding he was a whole person with interests and he was well-rounded and knowledgeable made me just kind of say like, oh, I need to be like that. And I strive to be. Resilience is another big thing. In the face of a cancer battle, he was positive and remained light. That resilience is something we all have to deal with. We all have to go through things that you feel like are the end of the world, and they are not. That is imprinted on me. And finally, just love in its purest form. And I'll tell you a little story. When I was a goofy teenager, I walked into the band room. Actually, no, I was probably just sitting there hiding, and he came in, and I didn't think about this. I just, in typical fashion, just said a silly thing, and I said, hey, how's married life? And without hesitation, he said, it's great. And I was floored by this response. I didn't expect a real response. I didn't want a real response. But it was impactful. And I think when I look back on all those things I was drawing straight lines to, it's kind of this amalgamation of all of them. So he was generous enough to share that with me. He was present enough to answer it honestly and without hesitation. He was light enough to understand my question was lighthearted in itself and didn't take it too seriously. His understanding of curiosity knew that I needed to hear that for some reason. Resilient enough to be a partner in a successful marriage through thick and thin. He really, to me, represents love, the care he showed to his students and his friends and his coworkers and his family. So this performance area, I wouldn't have gotten through high school without it, without him. I mean, if you look at my grades, I actually wouldn't have gotten through high school without him. But it's important. It's a sanctuary. There are kids in there who are struggling. There are kids in there who are like me, the outcasts, and feel like they don't fit in sometimes. There's a section of that band room with those kids, and they would rather be nowhere else. And they wanted to be nowhere else because of him, because they knew they would fit in there. And I'm hoping that that name being carried with that performance area can instill some of that energy down to those kids moving forward. I appreciate the opportunity to share that with you. So thank you very much for being here. I know it's important to me. It's important to the family, so thank you.
Very well said. Gives me great pleasure, and it is my honor to welcome Jen and Jess to come and share some remarks.
I'm going to try to get through this. I would like to start off by thanking Mayor Koch, members of the school committee, Superintendent Kevin Mulvey, Assistant Superintendent Erin Perkins, Keith Segala, Principal Gilbert, Mr. Taglieri, Michael DeMarco, Tim Carew, and Laura Owens for making today possible. A big thank you to Andy Mariello for coming today and sharing your story. You will always be a part of our family. When I was little, I remember watching the movie Mr. Holland's Opus with my father. For those of you who don't know it, it's a movie about a music teacher it goes through his life and long career and shows just how much Mr. Holland loved his students and they back. At the end of the movie, when Mr. Holland is cleaning out his band room they hear a noise from the auditorium and find former students throughout his career on the stage to play his opus, a piece of music he was working on his whole life. They play the piece with him conducting, and it was so moving. And I always thought, I want to give my dad his opus one day. We achieved that when my dad retired in 2019 with a surprise celebration for him. When he entered the auditorium that night, there were dozens of students and former students on the stage and in the seats. An evening of music, 2 wonderful videos of former students expressing their gratitude towards him. We were all moved by the scholarship created in his name, and my family and I are extremely grateful for that event and the words my father heard that night, because a year later we tragically lost him and my mother. I had the idea of naming the band room after my father because he had spent a good part of his life in these halls. As a student and a teacher here for 30 years, during my father's time as a student, he was a key member of the high school band, and it was there where his love of music and talent blossomed. The same 4 walls in which he would later make his career, giving back to the community that once raised him, and changing lives of generations of students. You've heard many times today that my father made the band room a haven for creativity and encouragement. From the start, he created an atmosphere where band students and non-band students alike could feel like they belonged. His band room office served as the purest example of this, each wall plastered with student drawings, inside jokes, student gifts dating as far back as the early 90s, truly represented his connection with his students and the history with his school. My sister and I are also alumni of North Quincy High School. I'm sorry I'm wearing blue today, Dad. So we had front row seats to see the impact my dad had on his students and the love the students had for him, often hearing, "Thanks for sharing your dad." I recently went back and looked at his obituary online because I wanted to share some of the comments. Words that were used to describe my dad: comfortable and calm, and brought joy to so many, a gentle spirit. I learned more that has helped me in my life from him than anyone else through my education and career. Rich was sunshine. I can fully say in confidence that Mr. K was the only teacher who completely changed my life. There were always second chances, funny jokes, and the spirit of inclusion within that band room when he was there. Even on the toughest days of high school, it was always a relief knowing that at the end of the day, there was band and Mr. K waiting. Mr. Holland's opus was a musical piece he spent his whole life writing. My dad's opus is his legacy of love, inclusion, and music. I hope that in naming this band room for him, that this spirit and this energy somehow lives on for generations to come. I hope people stop and look at the plaque and ask who he was. They would be in for something wonderful. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jen Keneally. I graduated here in 1999. I also went to Central Middle School, and having your dad as a teacher in both your middle school and your high school, for some people might be a nightmare. But for me, it was a delight. When Jess and I arrived here this morning, we were remembering when we would park behind the band room. We would arrive to school every day with our dad. I was never in the band. I was in choir and in theater, but I would hang out in the band room because that's where all the cool stuff was happening, and that's where my friends were, and that was, as Andy said, it was a sanctuary. And in this room, I learned how to be a teacher of the arts from my dad, from my aunt, from Peggy. Jess, all of us, we worked together for so many years. There's so much in our blood and in our hearts that is in this room, that is in this city. One of one of the things that I am proudest of in my life is that I get to continue his legacy through the arts, through performing. I think of him not only anytime I see something really funny that I wish I could send to him, but anytime I'm on stage and I sing. It's one of the proudest things of my life when somebody sees my last name and they go, "Are you from Quincy?" And I say, "Yes." And they say, "Was your dad a teacher?" And I say, "Yes." And I'm like, "Go ahead, say it." And they're like, "Was he Mr. K?" And I say, "Yes, he was." And then they get to tell me how much they loved him. Either they had him as a band teacher, or even if they didn't, they knew who he was. And they saw him in the hall, and he was always floating down the hall, being a happy guy, or, they had friends who were in band who talked about how amazing Mr. K was, always will be. So to me, being in this place where we all grew up, where we all did countless shows, we all taught, we get to carry that on. And so having an arts wing carrying on that name, the name of Rich Kenneally, means so much to me, and so much to my whole family. And I love you, Dad, and thank you guys. Thanks so much.
Right in front of you.